Well, first of all, for all of you who are joining, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us and on a topic that we feel super strongly about, especially while building a brand that we've been taking the last 6 years to diligently build and share our learnings across to brands and founders and operators like you. So my name's Ron. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a brand called Obvi. And for the last 6 years, we've been building in a digital world while also experiencing retail. And we're going to be talking about what it takes to be scaling profitably in a multi-channel world and how we built $100 million marketing engine without relying on just a singular platform. And I'll let the rest of my co-founders also introduce themselves and we'll pick it off to you.
Awesome. What's going on, guys? My name is Ash. I'm the other co-founder of Obvi as well as the CMO, pretty much tackling this digital world that Ron was talking about and really getting the Obvi brand messaging out there to acquire customers across multiple channels. And I'll pass it on to Ankit.
Yep, I am Ankit. I'm the Chief Brand Officer here at Obvi. I'm also the third co-founder, so I handle everything brand related under the sun, design, organic, all of it.
Incredible. Well, without further ado, we're going to jump in and we're going to be breaking down a lot of these different strategies and a lot of different things that we've learned. So to start things off, we're going to get into what it really takes when it comes to even considering channel diversification and what that strategy looks like, right? To give you guys some context, this is probably going to be, and I think for the last year has been the most important marketing conversation that you'll have. For us, our channel diversification is what allowed us to break through the growth. We had a couple of years where things became stagnant, and until we diversified, we weren't able to understand what the true potential of the business is. And so what we're going to be covering today, right, is one, how to get away from the platform risk reality, which is most D2C brands today are actually built on 1 to 2 marketing channels. And, especially if you're listening and you're just a brand that runs Meta all day, this is probably an important conversation for you to really tune in because we're going to get into why you really need to get to beyond 2, 3, 4, 5 marketing channels, especially, when you're looking at post iOS 14 days, which now feels like it was eons ago, but the effects are still dragging on, right? There are brands that are still attached to the idea of Meta is our end all be all, right? So what we're going to get to cover today, beyond what the context I just gave is we're going to be talking about attribution that actually works across channels and how we look at that. And then we're going to be touching on organic marketing that drives real acquisition and how we've been able to frame that and make that work as a channel that independently is performing really well for us. For us, we've also been able to take Obvi into 15,000 retail doors and how that is actually used as a growth multiplier for us, not just as a single pillar channel that runs on its own. We're also going to get to touch on creator partnerships that actually scale. Right now, we're living in a world where influencers, creators feel like they're the end-all, be-all solution to make things like TikTok shops or just the influencer channel work. But we look at this a little bit differently, and we look at it as creator partnerships. And so we'll get to touch on that. And then emerging channels that are worth testing. Really excited to get to this point because sometimes people who want to diversify, they just don't even know how to. Before I get into it now, anything else to add there?
No, I think we can get started, and I think we can get kicked off with what attribution really means and why is it so important for brands when they're scaling across digital. For those who have been living under a rock or haven't understood the impacts of what the iOS 14.5 update really did, but to give you a quick recap, essentially Apple made it impossible for data to be sent back to Facebook in order to allow the algorithm to optimize. So I'll give you an example. Say you are scrolling on Instagram, you see an ad for, a really cool t-shirt that you want to buy. You click on the ad and, make the purchase. Before, your website was able to send that information that, Moani just bought this black t-shirt for $50 and send that information back to Meta. Meta was then able to use that information and say, hey, as the advertiser, you now understand the effectiveness of your ads. 2, you understand who's buying from you. And then 3, Meta can use that information to then go and find people just like myself to find other customers. In a perfect world, that was working for years on years on years, and that we call the golden years. But post iOS 14 update, Apple broke this connection. They focused on privacy and they said anything that happens on our devices, you cannot send back to any other platform, whether it was Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok. You cannot send any of this information back. And that is what hurt performance across the board. Now, why does that matter, right? Without proper attribution, the advertiser doesn't understand the effectiveness of their advertising. So they're going to be making bad choices, turning things off when they're actually doing well. And when it comes to the algorithm can't see that information and then it can't expand on it or use it to optimize, right? So without proper attribution, you're going to be using bad data and you're going to make bad decisions and it's going to hurt the business. This point of attribution and having clean data is so important, especially now, even post updates on Meta, which happened in December of 2024, the Andromeda update. Facebook is making it essential to have pixel data be as healthy and as clean as possible so that they can optimize and improve your acquisition over time. And as well as some of these other platforms, right? Like TikTok, Google, Snapchat, Pinterest. A lot of these platforms are relying on view-through conversions to optimize. If you don't have clean data being sent back to these platforms, you are going to see poor performance, right? So what are the core foundations that are needed to have proper attribution set up? Well, let's get into it, right? One is server-side tracking implementation. Before, you would have a pixel that would set on your website, and you would just track the journey from somebody clicks on the homepage, they go to the product page, they go to the checkout. All of that would be stored at the browser level and then sent back to whatever platform you're using, almost similar to like a UTM. Now, you can use an actual server to send information back to these platforms without needing to have a code on your website. Or if some part of the journey was interrupted, say, you click on an ad, you go to the website, maybe you left that website and went to, another app or another website entirely, the journey is broken. But because you actually have a server set up, the server is tracking that user according to certain parameters to then be able to send that information back to Meta or back to TikTok without needing to have any code on the website. So this is essential for cross-channel measurement, right? Like I mentioned, if I saw an ad on my phone, I clicked it, but life got in the way and I got busy, end up scrolling on my desktop and I end up clicking the same ad and then making a purchase. Being able to track that journey is so important because those journeys happen all the time. It's not just straightforward. All right, I saw an ad, I clicked it and I bought right away. As much as we'd love for that to happen, it's not happening every single time. There's a lot to the journey. And so having server-side tracking set up is very, very important. Now, when it comes to the actual data signal, that is equally, if not more important than anything else. Not all CAPI setups are set the same. This is why you should be investing in a tool to actually set this up for you, right? When it comes to advertising on Meta, which is where 80% of people's budgets are, setting up a proper CAPI implementation for Facebook is very, very important. It's not even just an option anymore, it's a requirement. If you want to scale on these platforms, you need to have CAPI set up, no questions asked. And then on top of that, that quality of that data is very, very important. So if you go into your events manager and you're seeing your event quality scores a little subpar, that can become a massive issue as you scale. Facebook is going to prioritize the advertisers that have the cleanest data and push them higher into the auction. So if you can improve your data signal quality using a proper tool, then you'll actually see better performance day to day on your advertising. Then we're going to talk about zero party and first party data collection, right? This is the data that you as a brand are going to collect and not third party platforms like Meta. This allows you to understand who your actual consumer is. So an example of zero party data is, say you have a quiz on your website or maybe a pop-up with a little quiz on it. You are collecting answers to very specific questions about your users to then later build the proper customer journey for that user. So I'll give you an example where Say you get to, Obvi's website and there's a pop-up and it says, hey, would you like 20% off? But before we give you the coupon code, we want you to answer a few questions, right? What goal are you looking to achieve with me, right? So there'll be a few options, whether it's, hair, skin, nail health, weight loss, hormonal balance, gut issues, whatever it is. As a user, they have to click what they're actually interested in before they get the coupon code. This information is incredible to us because not every consumer is the same. We can start to bucket these people under different categories and characteristics so that later on, our marketing can tailor its messaging to those people specifically. And this allows us to get very in the nitty gritty details of how we actually form our marketing messaging. And this allows us to put the right message in front of the right person at the right time. Okay. Now, cross-channel measurement that works. Like I mentioned, everyone's customer journey is completely different. You might have somebody that sees an ad on desktop, they click it out, they check out the website, life gets in the way, they go to their phone, they might see an Instagram ad, they click on it, put something in their cart, they abandon the cart. Now they're getting an email saying that, hey, you forgot something in the cart, and then they finally check out. That is very important for you as an advertiser to understand what that journey actually looks like so that you can optimize, right? Because now across 3 different channels, email is now taking credit for that conversion. Facebook is taking the credit for that conversion. Now you think, okay, well, which one is telling the truth? Well, they're both telling the truth. It's just up to you as the marketer to actually understand how these channels work together and not in silo. And so with that being said, this is why we've moved away from looking at in-platform reporting for customer acquisition and retention and looking at just the blended level. You have to remember, not all these platforms are going to give credit to any other platform. So if somebody saw an ad on Facebook and then they saw an ad on Snapchat and then they bought, both platforms are going to take credit. But you also have to understand that if the numbers in Snapchat look bad or the numbers in Facebook look bad, it doesn't mean that you should be turning things off. It means that you should be looking at your blended CAC levels and saying, you know what, if I'm spending across these platforms, does my blended numbers actually look good and according to my targets? If yes, then the assumption is things are working together, and that's how you should be optimizing. Then on top of that, UTM standardization and consistent naming is very, very important just for analysis. So as a marketer, being able to go into your dashboards, going into your reporting and understanding where certain things are coming from, and that too without, having different string of numbers or different, naming conventions, standardizing it and understanding it so that when you do pull reports, you can actually understand what's going on from a high level without having to dive into different platforms for different types of reporting, right? So the biggest key takeaway here is before you advertise on any platform or diversify to any platform, fix your attribution and improve the data signal that you are sending from your own website back to these advertising platforms. 1, you will get way better measurement. 2, you will get placed higher in the auction and you'll start to see better results because without clean data, diversification is just expensive guessing. So fix your attribution, use a proper tool, set up CAPI, and make sure all that data is clean. So I want to pass it on to Ankit to talk about the organic strategy and why organic is so important for brand.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest levers we've pulled at Obvi is organic customer acquisition. And now I'm not talking about a few posts going viral. I'm talking about a consistent, compounding, strategic engine. That now drives 20% of our new customers. We built Facebook community of over 100,000 members, not to sell to, but to serve to. We never treated it as a direct sales channel. We focused on authenticity, listening to our consumers, and adding value first. The result, millions in revenue, and more importantly, retention that feels earned, not forced. Our strategy is be human, be helpful, be real. People don't want to be sold to, they want to feel heard. So if you're thinking about building a community, don't overthink it. Just do it. Just start. Choose the platform your customer actually uses. For us, that was Facebook. Then get help early. Moderators, super fans, a community manager, and above all, clear purpose. Ours was helping women flip bad habits into healthy ones. We didn't wait for people to discover the community. We pushed it through every channel, from ad comment sections to SMS to QR codes on the packaging. We also do weekly giveaways, raw behind the scenes moments, product prototypes, and real feedback. We even show up as three South Asian founders live and sell to middle-aged women because we've built the trust and we're not afraid to show the messy parts. So most brands rely on discounts and gimmicks. That's short term. It's cool, but it's short term. Our community asks us for product feedback forms. They create UGC. They bring friends. Why? Because we gave first. Value up front, sales come naturally. If you're not building community, you're renting customers. And if you're not creating a community, if you're not building a community, you're renting customers. If you are, you're creating lifelong ones. And now I will pass it off to Ron for retail expansion.
Yeah, I think, a few great points just made by Ash and Ankit, right? One is, I think we're going so technical into some of these elements around, how your setup should be, how your data infrastructure should be. And I feel like, 5 years ago, these weren't even things you talked about because it was kind of like, hey, there was really only one way to do things. There weren't too many channels of diversification. You didn't really have a data issue. You didn't have all these privacy things. And so now it's almost like there are people who don't realize that you still need to think about these things, but on a whole different level, to a point where you could do all the other things right. You can have a great funnel, you can have great creative, you can have great offer, and great product. But if, let's say, something as simple as your setup and data infrastructure and everything you're trying to do on the tracking end isn't done right, it doesn't matter. None of the other stuff can matter. So I think some of this stuff, although it feels like, I'm sure it's set up right, or kind of just you kind of brush it off. I think these are some of the biggest lessons we see, and we get the privilege to look at hundreds, if not thousands, of brands across, being able to look at Chew on this and the brands we work with and the brands we talk to on Twitter, etc. And you'll be surprised how many people are doing 90% of the things correctly. But then there's some technicalities in some of their setup and infrastructure that just is like, wait, this is the only part that's wrong. And I think focusing on that really, really helps. So I appreciate you guys going through that. Now I'll jump into the retail piece. I think retail has been something, obviously it's been around forever. It's probably how most of the commerce sector even started before digital. But I think retail has become something that is now on people's minds because the challenges on digital, right? It's not where you get to a point where there was a time where you looked at retail and said, oh, you know what, if I get in, I get in. And if I find a way to retail, great. If not, whatever, I have online commerce, right? Now it's more so like, hey, online commerce is doing good or doing great, but I want to be able to supplement my revenue. I want to be able to grow and be where my customers are. And so I think why retail still matters is you're getting this physical presence that brings you credibility. You're getting the ability to say, hey, if you're not ready to shop online today, go to Walmart, like you're planning to go anyway next Thursday, and pick it up there, right? It provides customer acquisition at scale, and you get to truly become omni-channel. Omni is being present everywhere, right? And omnipresent is being able to have your product available everywhere. And I think that's the goal now, because consumer decision making now has changed into, oh, I saw an ad, I clicked on it, and I bought right away, to I saw an ad, this looks like something I'd consider. Now I'm going to look at a bunch of other things, and then maybe I'll buy next week because I'll see it on the aisle of the store that I usually shop in. And I think this is where shopping behavior is going. And for us, Walmart's been a really great success story. We went from D2C only to now nationwide. We started with 1,000 store tests in Walmart, and now we're in 4,200 Walmart stores across 3 different SKUs, with more SKU expansions coming. And I think we often see retail customers often also become D2C subscribers because we have a really cool way to funnel them back into our experience, which helps us. And it creates multiple touch point, which I think for us is we've become a lot better about saying, you know what, if you're not ready to buy today online on this landing page that we've sent you to, that's okay. We're going to trust that our product and our marketing has done such a great job that when you do see the product next, wherever that may be, it may be Amazon, it may be online on our website again, or it may be at the Walmart that you're going to next Thursday, we're okay with wherever you make the purchase as long as you're making a purchase. And then, I think the way to look at this is, if you have to build out a roadmap for yourself, prove D2C success first, right? This is where you're going to get rapid feedback. You're going to not have to spend a ton of money to get that, and they'll really be able to understand product market fit. From there, I think develop retail specific positioning to see if your product is even going to work in retail, right? Also, ask the retailer what they need. Often when we go into our meetings, we don't just go and pitch what we think they need. We also start the meeting with saying, tell us a little bit about your set. What are you looking for? And then position your product appropriately. And then I think, preparing operationally is super, super important here. We're focused on making sure that we're getting in more channels. But if we can't afford it, or we can't go and make it work, we're not just going to get into retail just because we're going to retail in our mind. So really understanding and making sure that makes sense. So that's a little bit about our retail journey. And now I will kick it off, and we can talk a little bit about creative partnerships at scale.
Yeah, no, I love having this conversation because it's something that everybody should be doing, and allows brands to unlock different audiences that they weren't able to before. So what are creative partnerships, right? This is working with influencers or content creators. There are more and more content creators nowadays than there have been over the last few years, just thanks to the rise of TikTok, Instagram Reels, et cetera, et cetera. More people are being discovered. People are finding their voice. They're becoming authorities in their own spaces. And as a brand, you want to tap into that. Before, the approach was, influencer marketing. We're going to find an influencer. We're going to pay them. They'll post. They'll drive sales. Those days are long gone. It is more about long-term relationships with creators to promote your brand ongoing. But right now, we are working with 50 to 100 different creators per week systematically. We're essentially sending product to creators who are excited about the brand, who are ready to post about the brand and be advocates for the brand. Now, in return, what does that mean for the brand? One, we are getting posted across their social platforms. So that means more organic visibility and top of funnel for us. Two, we're getting content that we can repurpose pretty much anywhere on our profiles, on our website, and most importantly, our advertising, right? So how do you actually get this kicked off for a brand that's just starting, right? We went with the approach of, listen, we're going to reach out to as many influencers and creators as possible that fit certain parameters that we like, right? X amount of followers, X amount of engagement, certain profile demographics, whether those were females, ages 35 plus, moms primarily. You as a brand have to decide who you want to go after, create this avatar, and start reaching out. Now, what we ended up doing was we wanted to get the product into people's hands. In our outreach message, we wanted to say, listen, we think you'd like the product. We want to get you something on us, no strings attached. We don't want anybody or anything out of it. You don't have to post. We just want you to try the product. And usually you'll get a response. Send that creator or influencer an incredible package and you will see the results follow. At first, we were just sending our product as if we were just shipping it out, in a poly bag, white packaging, no inserts, no nothing, and it just looked like it showed up from Amazon. That's not a great experience for creators or influencers, right? They want something that they can talk about and post on their social profiles, whether it's their stories or their feeds, right? So when we were doing that, the posting rate was terrible. Nobody was talking about us. They didn't have a great experience, so why would they, right? The product can be great, but if the overall delivery experience is crap, they're not going to talk about you. That's when we actually invested in actual PR packaging. We got incredible boxes created so that when they took this product out of the package or the envelope that they got it in, the reaction is what we're looking for. What they want to do is we want to get them to actually post on their stories. And if we're sending them a bright pink box with, big branding letters, colors, how to use the product, having the product lined up really nicely in this box, they're going to want to talk about it. They're going to want to post about it. Think about it. These creators are getting PR packages from a ton of brands. So how can you stand out even in that influencer's inbox or their mailbox and have them talk about you? Creating that experience is very, very important before you even start this journey. Now, when you have a creator that's, into the product, they like it, they took it and they started talking about you, that's when you know you have a genuine connection and an authentic reaction from that creator to your product. Those are the people that you want to work with. So we seeded the product to them, they got it, they posted. Now that's when we go in for that ask, right? We provided the value up front, they liked it. Now let's get a little something out of it. Now, what we do is typically we create discount codes for our influencers. We say, hey, listen, if you want to offer this product to your audience, we've created you a discount code, which actually gives your audience and followers 25% off instead of just the regular 20% off on our website, which incentivizes their audience and saying, hey, we actually have an exclusive deal. If you gave me an exclusive deal to give to you guys, go check it out, right? So the incentive is there to go and use their profile, the incentive is there to use their promo code. Now, when the creator makes a sale, we're actually giving them a decent amount of commission. Typically, you see brands going with 10 to 15%. We want to give 25%. Now, the way that we think about it is you're actually good to give Meta 1x return and say, hey, I'm happy with it. Why not make a 4x return on giving the creator 25% commission? Sometimes during special holidays or different promotions, we even go up to 40 or 50%. That to us is like getting a 2x return on Meta. And we're completely happy with that. Obviously, as a brand is different from each other, figure out where your break-even points, understand what you can give, making it incentivizing enough for that creator to actually post about you and want to post about you, making it lucrative for them, and thus building a long-term relationship. The other thing here is once you send them a package, it doesn't stop there. It comes down to actually building a relationship with that person and that creator. We have a full-time person just talking to these creators every single day, every hour of the day, talking to them about how to use the product, what are some tips and tricks, some content ideas or angles to talk about in their marketing. On top of that, we're sending them product every single month. So if they run out of something, we're sending it to them. If we have a new product, we're sending it to them. If they want to try something else from our lineup, we send it to them. We're building that relationship. We're making it exciting for them enough to want them to talk about us on a day-to-day basis. Now, the most important part here is taking all this content that they're posting and actually running it as ads. Taking it a step further is getting access to run ads through their page on these different platforms, which is called whitelisting. What this means is instead of seeing an ad that comes from the brand, you're actually going to see this ad come from that creator itself. Why is this important? It looks way more authentic on the platform than it would if that ad was run through the branded page. So consumers are a little more likely to engage with it, thinking it's an organic post. They're going to, the cost of traffic is way better. You're hitting different audiences because typically when you start to whitelist, Facebook will go after their audience first and then start to expand out. So if you're kind of plateauing with your advertising on, channels like Meta, opening up whitelisting and using creators can start to get you into different pockets, allowing you to scale further. Now, systematic approach to getting these messages out to these creators, we're using platforms to automate all of this, right? When you're starting off and you're trying to get this program going, manual reach out is the best way to understand what messages are working, what are not, and how to optimize it. Once you find a flow that works really well, you can start to automate it with different platforms out there. What we want to do also is for certain platforms like maybe TikTok Shop, we can have anybody come in and actually place an order for the product. If they post a piece of content for us and tag the TikTok Shop, we'll actually reimburse them. So there's different ways to actually get your product in people's hands. You just have to be creative, right? Now, what we also do is when we have these creators post, the best thing and the most important thing is that before you post this on your socials or run these on your ad account, you want to get the rights to this. You don't want to go down the road where an ad is doing really, really well and the creator comes back to you and says, hey, what the hell? I didn't allow this, get into some trouble, and now you've lost your best performing ad, right? So make sure that you're getting rights. The other thing is don't just get this content and do nothing with it. There's so many things you could do with it. Posting it on your Instagram account, your Facebook account, your TikTok account, your Pinterest account, your Snapchat account. You can use this as UGC on your website. You can post this in your community if you have one. You can highlight these stories in your email and SMS, and you can use them as ads. So deploy it across the board. You have so much content now, utilize it. And then once you built this flywheel, learn from it. See what angles are working really well, what types of videos do really well, and feed that information back to the creators and say, hey, well, this video did really well. Maybe you could do 3 more like this. Or if a creator is struggling to see something pop off on their profile, use an example from somebody else who's done really well and send it to them so that they can create content that's similar. So that's, in our opinion, has been a big unlock for us over the last year, not only because it's driving organic visibility, but we're also able to create this flywheel of content that we can use in our advertising, allowing us to test way more creatives on a weekly basis. Now, there's a search behavior shift, right? If you ask me where I would search for certain things, if you asked me 3 years, 4 years ago, I'd be like, go Google it. Now I'm telling my friends, oh, I saw it on TikTok, or I looked it up on TikTok, right? So having content sit on these platforms that are actually optimized for these search results is very important. If you go to TikTok and search Obvi Collagen, I want you to see hundreds of videos from different creators. This just shows that people are loving the brand. There's a lot of social proof. People are talking about it on a day-to-day basis. Versus if you search for another brand and nothing is showing up on TikTok, you're dead in the water. So make sure that you're taking this content and repurposing it across the board. So in terms of the sizing of these creators, right? What actually works here, micro versus macro? And again, if you asked me this question maybe 5-6 years ago, I would say, listen, the bigger the better, because you want to hit more of an audience. Nowadays, anybody honestly can go viral, thanks to platforms like TikTok. Instagram is also changing their algorithm that every single creator has a chance to go viral. Work with the creators who are creative. Doesn't mean that they need to have hundreds of thousands of followers. You can have creators with 1,000 followers that just make great content and they're just starting out. Those are the people that I would say, for the brands that are just starting out in seeding and getting in front of content creators, go after the low-hanging fruit because they're more eager to get things going. You could probably make a way better deal with them in terms of, hey, I'm just going to send you product. Here's, a discount code that you can earn commission on. They're not going to ask for payment up front, where maybe some of these bigger influencers are asking for retainers. Start small because anybody has a chance to go viral. Don't just think of it as, well, that creator has 1 million followers. That means that my reach is going to be way higher. I've seen the occasional where a massive influencer post and that post goes dead. Whereas somebody who has 1,000 followers might get 2 million views off the video that went viral. So definitely go and check out some of these nano influencers and don't just focus on the macro. Now, what I would say for creators and how...
Are you guys here?
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe I'm good.
It's gone now. Okay. In terms of creators and what to brief them on what to actually put into their content, the question is always asked, well, do I send them a brief to follow, A, B, and C, or do we let the creator do their own thing? Well, I would say let the creator do their own thing, right? They're a creator for a reason. They've cultivated a following because people like their content. Let them use their likeliness and their authenticity to promote your brand. What I would say is also there are certain things where the brand should be focusing on brand, right? And that could be on your profile, your website, et cetera, et cetera. Let these creators push the narrative that they want to and the way that they want to, and it will probably do way better than if you had these requirements or there's restraints put on these creators. Now, when you have creators that are posting organically, make sure you're tracking them, right? Make sure you're using a social listening tool. Make sure you're tracking the amount of impressions that you're getting, the views that you're getting, so that you can actually track what is called the halo effect, right? The halo effect means if a creator posts something on their profile, maybe they have a link in bio, doesn't necessarily mean that somebody that's watching the video is going to go and click that link in bio, use their code, and buy right away, right? We're not necessarily measuring the effectiveness of these creators that way. What we want to see is, okay, this creator posted, she got 100,000 views. We have 10 others that are posting this week. They all got, X amount of views. What does that mean for the business? Did my paid ads efficiency get better because I'm introducing more people to the top of the funnel? Did my Amazon sales start to spike because people are seeing, a creator talk about this product and they went to Amazon instantly to look it up? Do we see an uptick on retail sales because now that person that went to Walmart, they remember they saw, Obvi on this creator's profile that they were talking about him, and I saw it on the shelf. I'm going to try it out, right? So make sure you're tracking this halo effect across all channels and not just being narrow-minded and looking at, well, this UTM only drove, X amount of traffic and X amount of sales. This creator is good or bad. Don't measure it that way. Make sure you're looking at your blended metrics and see if there's a halo effect across multiple channels. Now, the systems at scale here, right? When we started out in seeding and creating these outreach messages, it took a lot of different outreach messages to actually optimize the funnel, right? So test a bunch of different messages, test the different offers. Once you actually have something in place, now create a guide, create an entire system that you can implement for your team to carry out on a day-to-day basis, making sure that there's certain things that are covered when or talking points when the creators talking about your product. Include a list of things to mention, but definitely include a list of things not to mention, right? We don't want to be spreading misinformation across the board. Make sure that these things are clear, right? Next thing is use a CRM to track everything. There's a few platforms that we use to pretty much automate the outreach, automate the social listening, automate the reporting, and paying out commissions when they need to. So make sure you use the tool. Otherwise, using Google Sheets will get super overwhelming very quickly. Make sure the team that's in charge of this has a very clear follow-up method. Influencers and creators are not waiting for your messages. They have their own lives to live. So give them some grace. Make sure you follow up accordingly and consistently, right? If you've sent a package to somebody and they haven't posted anything, send them a few emails until they do. Usually you'll get a higher response rate. Don't just message them one time and then write it off. Make sure that you actually have some systems in place to approve the content that's being posted or used in your ads, right? Again, like I said, you can give them a brief, but if certain things are being said that you don't want to as a brand, make sure you have a process in place to approve these things. And then if you have these systems in place, then you can actually have a weekly cadence of new creative coming in. You can have a weekly cadence of influencers posting about you. This way, it's not just random and you're not just having random moments of, maybe a creator going viral. You're building consistency, allowing you to get creative consistently and organic impressions and visibility consistently, right? So creating a systematic creator partnership, a flywheel is super important when you've aligned all the incentives for the creators, you've briefed out exactly what you want from them, and you're actually taking what they're doing and leveraging it across all of your marketing efforts. And you're actually optimizing for reach, impressions, and sales, and tracking that halo effect across the entire board. Now, I'm going to pass it to Ankit to talk about some of the emerging channels and some of the different channels that we've been exploring to actually get in front of an audience that we probably never thought we could. So, Ankit, I'll let you take it away here.
Foundation, paid gives it. Oh,
Yeah, just start.
okay. So while community gives us the foundation, paid gives us the fuel, but the landscape is shifting fast. And we've learned that the hard way. Don't put all your eggs in Meta or Google. So we're constantly testing emerging channels. Here's what we're actively testing right now. Connected TV. Think Hulu, Roku, Freevee. These platforms give us reach at a fraction of the CPM compared to traditional paid social. YouTube shopping. The new shoppable video integrations are early, but promising, especially for product-led storytelling. TikTok Shop, obviously, still the wild, wild west, but when it works, the conversion rates are unmatched. We're testing bundles and limited drops here. Mobile game ads, we found surprisingly strong performance here. In-app ads during mobile games have high engagement and often reach overlooked demos. And then this one's my favorite, live shopping. So we recently went on Shop LC, which is like a QVC competitor. I thought this channel was dead. I was dead wrong. This one's a breakout channel for us. We've gone live on Shop LC, and the volume has been ridiculous. The combination of urgency, live demos, impulse offers, and has driven sales. The combination of urgency, live demos, and impulse offers has driven sellout level velocity. We're treating this like, you guys hear something? Sorry. The combination of urgency, live demos, and impulse offers has driven sellout velocity. We're treating this like its own vertical going forward. We break this down into a 70-20-10 model. 70% goes to proven channels that are already working, 20% to channels with early traction, and 10% to peer testing. Even if it flops, at least we learn. We run 30-day sprints. Day 1 to 30 is fix attribution, pick a new channel. Days 31 to 60, scale what's working. And days 61 to 90, reallocate budgets based on performance. This keeps us agile, organized, data-driven, and most importantly, diversified. We're not betting big on any one shiny object anymore. We're testing systematically, scaling what works, and always keeping a foot in the future. Now, I'm going to pass it off to Ron for steps to success.
You're muted.
I think you're on mute.
Goal. Oh, am I on?
You're good now.
Got it. That's weird. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Amazing. Well, first of all, before I jump into our wrap up, the goal of today was to be able to show you guys how to think beyond just utilizing one channel to scale, how to think about when you do think about these other channels, what are some of the components to work on? What are some of the components to really care about? And then, at the core of everything, making sure that your foundation, your core, your structure is set up correctly so that when you do expand into these channels, so that when you do look at diversifying and becoming more omnipresent, your data has truth to it. You have a source where you can trust and rely and make decisions off of. And, at the end of the day, that's been super, super important for us, especially working with Elevar, which is now part of the Buxton family. I think has been an incredible tool for us. I think we always joke about, our longest standing tool, the tool that we've used for the longest amount of time, Obvi's lifetime has been VAR. And I think sometimes it comes down to if you have your core and your foundation set up, it sounds cliche, but a lot of the other pieces that you're trying to grow off of and find ways to build from becomes a lot easier. So, again, some of the key takeaways today, right? Fix attribution before diversifying, went deep into that, making sure our organic marketing provides highest long-term ROI, and making sure, community building creates customers and not followers, and then really ingraining that in your mind, right? I think people oftentimes say, I don't have time for community. Well, if you don't have time for community, then you actually are saying you don't have time for your customer. I think understanding that retail, if you do it right, is not just revenue, but it also helps with reach and credibility. And then lastly, systematic creative partnerships, I think outperform some of the more simpler campaigns that people are trying to set up and just and trying to get out of the gate. I think being able to create something that is a strong framework and partnership does go a long way. Ashok, if you guys want to walk through some of the immediate actions and then wrap up with our final thoughts.
Yeah. So first things first, especially for the attribution setup, I would 100% start with Meta, go to your events manager, and see if there's any issues there, right? Make sure that your match scores, your quality scores are as high as they possibly can be. But you would not imagine the errors and different diagnostic errors that I'm seeing, when brands come to me to say, hey, my performance isn't looking good, I think it's a creative issue. And the first thing I tell them is to look at your events manager and see if there's any issues there. And lo and behold, there's definitely an error there, especially with Meta's, recent updates. If you're in the health and wellness space, you may get flagged for certain restrictions or the new policies that are in place. So first things first, before you panic and you think, I got to change my website, I got to change my landing page, my offer, my creatives, just go and see if the foundation is set up to start, right? Next thing I would say is, if you're doing well on one channel, start to allocate some budget to the next, right? The idea here is, how can we get in front of an audience that we aren't currently getting in front of? So if you're going all in on Meta, there's a different audience entirely on TikTok, right? So take about 10% of your budget and just start testing different platforms, because you never know what platforms you may unlock, right? For certain brands, TikTok might be the next answer. Snapchat might be the next answer. Google or YouTube, right? So take a little bit of budget, start testing, use your already existing creatives that you're using for Meta, and move it over to some of these other platforms. The third thing that I would say is, if you are trying to get into creative partnerships and seeding, just go scroll on Instagram, scroll on TikTok, scroll on Facebook, and just see what creators pop out at you, right? You might be creators that you're already following. Would it make sense if they had your product in their hands talking about it, right? So go, identify a few of them, handful, maybe 3 or 4, and just say, you know what, I'm going to create a message and I'm going to reach out to them and see what happens, right? Chances are they won't even respond, but you will have the outreach message that you've crafted to now go and reach out to many more. But create the avatar and just start the outreach process. Number 4, I would say tracking for cross-channel measurement is very, very important, especially as you go across and start advertising across multiple channels, right? This is very, very important to leverage a tool, certainly like Elevar, to make sure that, like I mentioned, the customer journey is very, very different from one another. You may see an ad here, you might go on your laptop and check out an ad there, and then maybe you might open up an email and buy, right? You want to be able to measure these events across different channels, so it allows you as a marketer or the brand to optimize the journey accordingly. And then I would say download our channel diversification checklist. This way you have everything in front of you to actually tick off and say, you know what, from step 1 all the way through, you have everything in place to actually start to expand your marketing efforts and get in front of new audiences and scale your brand.
Amazing. Well,
okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, amazing, guys. Well, first of all, for again, all of you tuned in, took time out of your busy day. Hopefully you guys got value out of this. We tried to get as tactical as possible, but also give you the right frameworks on how to think about different things. Again, we truly believe the brands that thrive won't just be, ones that have really good individual channels that work for them. I think the ones that have resilient marketing engines that are really thinking about diversification, that are really thinking about how to grow channels independent from other channels, are the ones that are going to win. And hopefully we can give you a good starting point if you haven't started thinking about it today. And if you have, hopefully we can help you optimize some of that. So thank you for tuning in. Again, we're Ron, Ash, and Elkit from Obvi, and we're super, super excited to be able to continue to bring you guys value. And thanks for tuning into our webinar.